So the other day I posted this picture on Instagram. I'll post it right up here. So what you guys are looking at right now is a kind of a side by side of me in my technically like first studio and then me in my current studio. And the caption on it firstly said, "Don't give up." And then afterwards, I kind of went in the captions and said some other stuff. You guys can go check it out for yourself. But a lot of people found it very motivating. I had lots of comments on it, posted it in my story, and a lot of people messaged me saying like, "Man, I really needed to hear this," or "Thank you for the inspiration, motivation," that kind of thing. I had a lot of people asking questions about my first setup and then stuff in between and then what I currently have. And a lot of people just saying like, "I'd love to hear more about this first setup or about your journey along the way." And it got me thinking like, sure, like why don't I just kind of do a long form YouTube video about this? So instead of just answering one question here or there, why don't I just kind of answer everything as a whole and go more in detail about it? So I started engineering. Well, I actually started out producing firstly. I was more of a producer at the start of my career, if you want to call it, even though, again, it was a hobby at the time. But I was big into just kind of making beats. And I started doing that in Winnipeg, Manitoba, where I was born and raised, and just doing it in my parents' basement. I started just kind of making beats on FL Studios back in the day. And instantly fell in love with it. I was like, this programming, how do you do this? And I wanted to figure out everything about it, but I just fell in love with it like instantly. And started making beats for just some friends that rapped or sang or something like that. And we had our little like collective of like me being the producer and then a couple guys being the rappers, one guy being a singer, that kind of thing. And we would just always gather in my parents' basement and just work on music. And instantly I was like, this is it. Like, this is what I want to do all the time, 24/7 if I can. That was it. I fell in love with it instantly. And so back in those times, I had no clue what I was doing. Not a single clue. I was just kind of figuring it out. And back then there wasn't a lot of stuff like there is today on YouTube. We're going back like 15-ish years, give or take, something like that. So you kind of just had to figure things out on your own. And I got a program, I started recording. I didn't even necessarily want to be the engineer. I wanted to be the producer, but we just didn't have anybody to record. So I had the studio, so I was like, hey, I'll do the recording, I'll do the mixing, that kind of thing. Again, no clue what I was doing. No clue about mic placement, no clue about mics in general, no clue about proper recording levels, like none of that. I had nothing. I didn't even have studio monitors. As you can see in that picture, I was just using Logitech speakers. I had no clue like, hey, you need proper studio monitors or you need a proper microphone or a proper preamp or whatever. I had no clue. I had not a single clue. But I made it work, and again, I just fell in love with it. So a couple years down the line, I was like, hey, this is really what I want to do in life. And I moved out to Toronto just totally by myself. My parents stayed in Winnipeg. I had no friends, no family in Toronto, nothing. I was just like, let me just try it out. And I went to a audio engineering school out here, and it was a 1-year course, just really kind of quick thing. I did that, and at the time I was kind of building up my, I don't want to call it clientele, because it was really just like people from school and then people from school that I met, their friends and that kind of thing. So I was really just kind of, at the time, I guess, building my network, but I didn't realize it at the time. So I finished school and I didn't really know what to do. I started applying for internships, at different studios in Toronto. I wasn't hearing anything back. I wasn't getting any calls or emails. And at the time, I was just I was stuck. I was still kind of doing my own thing and working with a few people that I had met through school, but I really wasn't making any money. It was just kind of doing it for fun. So I realized that the internships were not being fruitful. So I started kind of doing my own thing a bit more. I started working with more people. I'd say, hey, if you know somebody, can you pass my name on to them, like for a client that I was currently working with. But then I slowly started to kind of build somewhat of relationships with other people beyond that kind of friend group or friend of friend group. And that's when I really kind of realized, hey, there's something here and I can kind of capitalize on it. Because at the time in Toronto, there weren't a lot of engineers on the kind of independent level. Now, these days, there's a ton everywhere because of how accessible it is. But even that, we're going back maybe 13 years now, there wasn't a whole lot, but I saw a hole in the market. And I said, let me just really commit to the engineering and see what I can do with it. And just do it from my home kind of thing. Because I was comfortable at my place in Winnipeg at home. And then I got a condo or apartment in Toronto and just kind of set up there. Again, still sure, school taught me stuff. And school was good if I was ever put in a big studio. I knew my way around an SSL board, or I knew the gear, or just signal chain, that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, I didn't know anything about finding clients. I didn't know anything about the business side of things. And I still wasn't great at mixing or anything like that. Sure, I got some knowledge from school, but it wasn't like I just left school and was like, I'm a pro mixing engineer or I'm a pro recording engineer. It wasn't like that. You've still got to kind of put the actual practice of engineering to use. So I started doing that. And again, I really didn't know what I was doing still, but I upgraded. I got a different microphone. I got my first pair of studio monitors, upgraded from those Logitech computer speakers. And the first set of monitors I got were Yamaha HS8s. And I had what did I have for an interface? I think I just had an Avid M-Box, and then I had a Apex something microphone. I can't remember what it was. The larger condenser Apex. I can't remember what it was now. But nothing special. But at this time, I started making money for myself. And I started charging people who would come to see me, and I started to tell them, hey, I'm doing this for real now, so if you don't mind, can you tell your friends, if they're artists, to hit me up, tell them to come by, first sessions on me kind of thing. And that's how I really kind of started building my clientele at the time. And still, I'm learning as I go here. I'm just trying to figure things out. I'm trying to get better at mixing, recording, trying to get comfortable with talking with artists or guiding them or coaching them through sessions. All that kind of stuff. It was still new to me. Even though I was doing it as a hobby and stuff before, I never really took it crazy seriously. So when I decided hey, look, I gotta kind of do this for real because I'm gonna try to just rely on this for a living right now, that's when I really kind of fully committed to it and really just gave it my all. In those earlier times, I still didn't have much for equipment or gear or anything like that. Because a lot of the things that people were saying in the DMs to me on that picture on Instagram were how did you level up? Because obviously I didn't just get everything that I have in one shot. I didn't just spend tens of thousands of dollars out of pocket to just get everything. It was all incrementally done. So, I'd have a good month or a good year or something like that. And I'd say, okay, look, I've got some extra cash kicking around. I can afford to upgrade my microphone, or I can afford to get a better preamp or something like that. So it was all kind of incremental steps to get to where I am today. And I'm sure another few years or even a year from now, I'll be up here, but currently I'm here. So it's all perspectives at the end of the day, right? Because a lot of times, the younger me back in the day with that Apex mic, I wouldn't have even imagined that I'm where I am today. And another 5 years, I probably won't think of where I am then back to where I was right now, if that makes any sense. I'm making that kind of confusing, but you know what I mean. So again, I think a lot of it is perspective, and I think a lot of younger engineers or engineers that are just starting out or trying to make this a full-time career probably looked at that picture and just kind of, well, a lot of them said they got inspired or motivated from it. So over the years, you've got to take those little wins and understand how to kind of elevate your business from it. whether that's working with somebody who's a little bit more substantial, and I don't mean like an A-list artist, but just someone who's maybe a little bit known in your city or your province or state or whatever, and capitalize off that. Really kind of show your following on social media, like, hey, I'm working with this person, but don't show it in like a bragging, I'm too good kind of way. Like, just show it as like, hey, I'm working with this person. And a lot of times people see that and they'll be like, oh shit, he's working with such and such. Like, he must be doing good, or must be doing something right. So then it's those kind of little things that you can capitalize on, and you'll see like an influx of business come in during a lot of those kind of situations. So then you take that influx of business, and maybe it's more money than you would typically make in a week or a month or whatever, and you stack some of that aside. You just say, I'm not going to touch this. I'm not going to go on any trips. I'm not going to spend it on clothes or going out or anything like that. You're just going to say, this is specifically for upgrading something or getting something new for the studio, right? So it's about being smart with your money when it comes in and knowing when and where to spend it. So that was something that I really kind of learned earlier on in my career, and something that I still practice to this day. Anytime I buy a piece of gear, it's never on layaway or anything like that. Like, I'm not paying interest on it or anything like that. Anything I own is just bought out outright. And I'm not saying that's the right thing to do for you, because if you need to put it on your credit card and then pay it incrementally, like, that's what you got to do, right? For me personally, I always just made sure that I was never I never liked being in debt. And I always heard stories about people, or even just saw friends put themselves in debt. Then they had to climb out of that situation. And for me, I just never wanted that. So I always just said, look, hey, I'd love to get this new preamp. It's not really the right time right now. Business is slow or whatever. But the next time I have like a good month and maybe put a bit more money aside, I'm going to pull the trigger on that. And I would wait for that. So it's about the discipline behind it and the discipline that you hold yourself in. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about like upgrading stuff. And this isn't financial advice by any means. This is just strictly what I did, and it's worked for me. Just because it works for me doesn't mean it will necessarily work for you. So over those years, I slowly kind of started getting into gear. And I actually posted something about this, I think last week or something like that too, showing my gear evolution. And that's another reason why I wanted to kind of make this video as well, because I had people in the DMs as well just saying like, hey, I'd love to know more about this. So the first piece of gear I got was a Avalon 737, and I didn't even buy it myself. That was given to me by a friend who's also in the music business, who wasn't using it at the time, and just said, hey, you can take this, and when I need it back, I'll get it back. So I had that for a couple years. And then eventually he needed it back. So then I got my own setup, and I didn't spend any money on gear for like 2 years, and I didn't upgrade anything. So I really just kind of stacked money, and I don't want to say I was making decent money or a lot of money, but I was making enough. And at the time my rent was fairly low. Well, for Toronto anyways. But I was able to kind of stack some money that year. So then after that I said, look, I'm just going to get a Fire vocal chain, or what I thought was at the time. And I got the same U87 that I have right now that I'm recording this on. And I got my UA 1176, which I still have. And I got a Warm Audio WA73 preamp. Now, looking back at it, I think I would have maybe gotten a better preamp, but I was spending a lot of money at the time, and I kind of had to make a sacrifice somewhere. So that was my sacrifice. I was like, let me just kind of cheap out on the pre, but then go big on the other things. Over the years, again, I started kind of, every time I had a good year or a good month or something, whereas there was some extra cash kicking around, I started getting more and more into gear. And then I started getting different preamps and different compressors, and then started getting gear for my mix bus and that kind of thing. And yeah, it really just kind of snowballed from there. So over those years, it was a combination of me learning, getting better at my trade, getting better at my craft, and just figuring out business, like the business side of engineering. Like, how do I get clients? How do I keep clients? How do I sustain them? How do I keep people happy? That kind of thing. And I really had no mentor or anything like that. I was really just kind of figuring things out as I go, and just upgrading things as I could. and just being super, super patient. And that was something that I said in the post, that you have to have 1, ambition, 2, extreme patience, because it does take a long time. And you could just think like, hey, I've put my X amount of hours in, I should just be automatically getting clients. And that's not necessarily how it works all the time. Sometimes it takes a bit longer, and sometimes you got to really kind of go out and shake a lot of hands to find the work and just get those clients coming into you consistently. So the patience behind it and not having anyone as a mentor can be time consuming. And it was for me. I think if I had a mentor, I could have sped the process up by years. And that's a reason why I made this YouTube page, is really just to kind of give guidance on things that I would have wanted in my earlier years as an engineer. So yeah, the ambition, the patience, that's definitely needed. And the third thing that is like really needed is just a genuine love for the craft of engineering. Like deep rooted love for being an engineer. If you're just doing this because it's fun and hey, you can see other engineers making money off of it, so you think it's just a good hustle, I hate to say it, but you probably won't make it. I'm not gonna lie. You've truly got to love what you do, because that shows to your clients or anyone that you're working with. It comes off as just genuine. If you're just you're in and you're trying to get money off people, people are gonna notice that. And they're gonna just be like, okay, he's trying to get me in and out as quick as possible and just get my money and blah, blah, blah. There were so many times earlier on in my career, and to this day, where someone comes in for a session and we end up going like so much over the time that they booked, because we're talking or we're discussing their career or how to release their single or a video or the marketing behind it. You have to be almost so much more than just an engineer. And that's what I say all the time, is like, when you come in to record with me, you're getting me to engineer the session. You're also getting me as a vocal coach, because I'm helping you with the melody or hitting certain notes or whatever, or how to project your voice. You're also getting me as a producer. I'm helping you with the arrangement. I'm helping you maybe move things around with the beats. And I'm also there just to kind of listen. And sometimes artists come in and maybe they've had a rough week or a rough month or however long, or just a rough day, and they just kind of want to talk some things out. So you're almost being like an unlicensed therapist in a sense, because to them, music is their therapy, and you're the guy that's providing that outlet for them. So in a way, you are kind of like the therapist, and sometimes you just got to talk with somebody for 20-30 minutes before their session starts or something like that, just to kind of get them in the right vibe or in the right headspace. And then on top of that, you're helping them, like I said, with the marketing after you mix the song for them. You're discussing those kind of things. You're discussing rollouts and all that kind of stuff. And that ties back to, again, just having a genuine, deep-rooted love for engineering and more. But your clients will notice that at the end of the day. It's not just like you're coming in, taking their money, they leave right at the second their session's done, and then you mix the song, you get their money, boom, talk to you later. You got to check in on people and just kind of see what they're up to, or how the release is going, or what things they have in mind for the release of the song you just mixed. So there's so many kind of things to it. So again, ambition, extreme patience, and just a genuine love for engineering are kind of key things behind having a successful career as an independent engineer. So again, I'm super grateful and happy that that post on Instagram just did what it was intended to do. I really just genuinely wanted to kind of give that inspiration to anybody that might have needed it. So again, a lot of people saw it, and it meant a lot to me, just a lot of the comments and responses I was getting from it. So that's why I wanted to kind of go more in depth in this video. I hope you guys got something from it. Again, I do this just to kind of help out, because I didn't have this when I started out. So it's all about me just kind of taking things that I've learned over the years and giving it back at the end of the day. So drop a comment if you guys got something from this. Please like and subscribe. That's it, guys. Until next time, take care.